So remember how it works with respect to, hold it here. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. So remember how this works with respect to the packet. In each part, there's 3 sections. Section A is what we're going to do on the board now. Take notes, copy it down. You will not need to watch the video when you go home because we're actually covering it in class. But in your guys' cases, you're going to have to watch other part videos for definitely for part 1 and part 2, and maybe part 5, depending on if we get through that during class today. Okay. Once you're done watching the video on part A, I want everybody to try part B. Do the best you can. That's when you show it to me in extra help. Show me that it's getting done and that you're doing it correctly. I'll sign off on it. If there's any problems, I'll go over those problems with you. And then we go to section C. And once you're done with section C, then you do that for each of the parts of the test that you struggled with, and then you can take a retest. And you can get grades like those grades that I read to you just a couple of minutes ago. The grades that were really, truly outstanding grades. More 90s than anything else. All right, so we're up to part 3 on our particular Test 2 Relearn packet. And part 3 deals with scientific notation. Now, look, there's far more important things in the world than Common Core tests. You got family, you got all the other things in your life, your faith, everything else that matters to you. Those things are far more important. But that doesn't change the fact that we still, you could opt out, but most of us are going to end up taking the test. And I want to be confident, and I want to believe we're going to do well. And performance is a function of preparation. The more that we can make practice like the game, the better we'll do in the game. So what they're looking at here, I remember the first year they gave the test, we had no pre-test, we had no idea what was going on. That was 2 years ago. Last year I never saw the 8th grade test. But I did get a chance to peek at the first year's test. And I didn't write any questions down or anything like that. I could get in a whole lot of trouble if I ever did that. But I do remember lots and lots of scientific notation type questions on the first day. So we have to be ready for this, and we have to be able to say, okay, are we comfortable with scientific notation? And the good news is that I think our level of comfort is getting much, much better. I think we look pretty good with this. Number 11, what is the product of 5 times 10 to the 9th and 4 times 10 to the negative 3rd? Well, we're going to multiply coefficients, and we're going to add exponents. So if I multiply my coefficients, which are 5 and 4, 5 times 4 is 20, times 10 to the add exponents, 9 and negative 3 is 6. And at this point in time, we say to ourselves, okay, there's a problem. Guys, what's the problem with this question? Or this answer, I should say. No problem with the question, but there is a problem with the answer. Mike, what do you got?
Bigger than 1 to 10.
Yeah, the coefficient is bigger than 10. So I have to change that, and the way I'm going to do it is if I'm going to divide by 10 here. But if I divide by 10 there, what do I have to do to balance that out? Go ahead. That's right. I'm going to multiply by 10, which is really 10 to the first. So my answer changes to 2.0 times 10 to the 7. Okay? 2.0 times 10 to the 7. So, again, grading the tests and on all the quizzes we've had, you guys are really good at that question. So I would suspect that most of you got that question right. If not, the good news is, don't take my word for it. Take the results of your peers, the people in your own class. They're getting it right. So if they're getting it right, you should be getting it right as well. Now, let's take a look at number 13. And I cautioned you about number 13 when I gave you the pretest. And I said that I remember giving a question like this on last year's test, and I remember the kids having a hard time with it. I also remember the part that gave them the most difficulty. So if we go through and read this, a container of water has 2 times 10 to the 17th molecules of water. That water is divided, so divided, obviously super important word, it means we're going to do division, into 8 times 10 to the 4th smaller containers. How many molecules are in each container? So it says we're going to divide, so let's divide. The amount of molecules I start with is 2 times 10 to the 17th, and I'm going to divide it into containers, which is 8 times 10 to the 4th. And, you know, I told you the day before I feared that a particular mistake was going to come, and some people did get this right, but not too many. The ones who got it right, well, first off, just about everybody did this. 17 minus 4 is 13, so they had 10 to the 13th as part of their answer. The problem is, they wrote 4. 2 divided by 8 is not 4. 8 divided by 2 is 4. To do 2 divided by 8, I have to go over here and I have to make a Gesindtausch, if you will, a division problem. 8 does not go into 2, bring up the mark, make it heavy and dark. 8 goes into 22 times, that's 16. Bring it down, I get 5, and then pardon me, I get 4, bring down to 0, 8 goes into 45 times. So I get 0.25 times 10 to the 13th. So that was the first big mistake. The first big mistake is that people did not do 2 divided by 8. People did 8 divided by 2. Now, we're still not done yet because there's still a problem with this answer. What's the problem with this answer? Leah, what's the problem with the answer?
0.25 is between 1 and 10.
That's right. The issue is the 0.25. It's not between 1 and 10. But this time we're going to work backwards of the previous problem. Now I actually have to multiply this guy by 10 to make it a number between 1 and 10. But if I multiplied, what do I have to do now to balance out the multiplication? Lizzie, what do you think? That's right. That's right. So now 0.25 becomes 2.5. But now because I'm dividing, I have to subtract exponents times 10 to the 12th. 2.5 times 10 to the 12th. Why do you do that to me? 2.5 times 10 to the 12th, Leah, as you can tell, got me yawning, which now has Lizzie yawning. Would anybody else like to yawn while there we go. We got Jen. Patrick Patrick got his rocking. Shannon, is it your turn yet?
Yeah, like 5 times.
Oh, did you? I didn't notice it. Okay. All right, so we got numbers 11 and number 13 done. Now, the first thing is I want you to realize I don't think they're easy questions. But I also think you can do them. Do you get the sense, looking at yourself deep down inside, that you can do this? I hope you do. They're not easy. They're challenging. They're way harder than we used to teach 8th graders. But you can do this, and you can get it right. If you weren't 100% prepared for this, learn from that. Get a little more prepared for our next test. When that comes, by the way, our next test is going to be Halloween. I actually have to be absent that day. I'm getting some pre-surgical testing done in the morning. So if I take that day and I give you guys a test, you lose a teaching day. So that's what I like to do. Okay. The world population is about 7 billion. And this is an interesting fact that I did not know. There are 4.6 times 10 to the 7 ants for every human on the planet. I bet you were dying to know that. That's a very important thing. It's like your life probably feels complete now that you know that. It's almost up there with whether or not there's a God. Okay, now. Who yawned on that one? Oh, here we go, there it's turned. All right, so first off, 7 billion looks like this. But I want you to notice, it says write it in scientific notation. And one of the big mistakes I saw in this question is a lot of people just put the 7 billion in the answer space. If you notice, I wrote it above the answer space. I did that so I could convert this to scientific notation. That's going to be 7 times 10 to the 3, 6, 9. So the answer we're looking for there is 7 times 10 to the 9. Now, sometimes, Annabelle, are you with me here?
Yeah.
All right. Sometimes, when we start doing problems with big scientific notation, the numbers themselves are, so big that they can distract us from what exactly is going on. Let's make this problem simpler. Let's say that these 7 people sitting right here, Annabelle, I would feel much more comfortable if your head was up. Thank you. Now, let's say we got these 7 people right here. Annabella, what's your favorite kind of cookie?
Oatmeal raisin.
Okay, let's say each of these 7 people have 3 oatmeal raisin questions. 3 oatmeal raisin cookies. How many cookies are there altogether? 7 people, they each have 3. How many cookies altogether? Everybody? 21. How'd you get that? You multiply, right? So if every person has 4.6 times 10 to the 7th ants, what do I have to do with the two numbers? Multiply. So I'm going to do 7 times 10 to the 9th times 4.6 times 10 to the 7th. Now let's do the easy part first. This is a 9 here. It doesn't really look like it, but it is. I'm going to get 10 to the 16th when I multiply. And then 7 times 4.6, that's 28, and 42 is 32.2, I believe. You could do it all on scratch work if you wish, but it comes out to 32 point. Uh-oh. Or as we were taught when we were little kids and we used to see a commercial on TV. Uh-oh, spaghetti-o. Did you ever hear that? Yeah, you did?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so you guys, I'm not as old as I thought. I thought I was ancient, almost fossilized. So, what's the problem here, guys? Darlene, what's the problem?
The number's not between 1 and 10.
Absolutely, same thing every time. So I gotta divide by 10 to move that decimal to the left, which means I gotta multiply by 10 to balance it out. So that gives me 3.22 times 10 to the 17th. Okay? Now, those scientific notation questions are way harder than the scientific notation questions on the first test. The first one was just like one, and the other two were much harder. Keep working it. Learn from your Relearn packet. And then you will be able to produce and do well on your retest and get a super grade. Remember, when you take your retest, what happens to your old grade? It's dropped. Completely gone. So all you have to do is get this right. Okay? So I think we're very capable of doing that. Now, let me stop the video for just a minute and go on to our new video. Oh, I didn't tell you what happened in the Lindquist household last night.